From WHYY, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Fight, and you can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, Phillies take 2 out of 3 from the Diamondbacks, miss a chance to sweep yet again. A little bit of a theme for the Phillies here, but they're winning series, and again, some pretty good teams here over the last week and a half or so. So we're going to dive into this Phillies-Diamondback series that took place over the course of the weekend. But obviously, we're a day clear of that. We're recording Monday evening on the off day, so we'll talk about some bigger picture stuff as well on the podcast. We'll do a little bit of nonsense at the end too, with regards to extra innings and rules changes that need to take place, and a lot of different stuff we can get to here on the podcast. I may have to offer a mea culpa on Max Kepler at some point here on the podcast too. So just so everyone's aware of the itinerary, that's part of the roadmap tonight. Justin Klugh and Liz Roscher, the roundtable with you here on this edition of Hittin Season. Liz Roscher, of course, editor of the Baseball Research Journal. Follow her on X and Blue Sky at Liz Roscher. Liz, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm doing peachy keen. Everything is fabulous. The Phillies aren't playing tonight, and I don't have to spend a lot of extra time worrying about them. Are they doing well? Are they doing badly? They're doing nothing. They're all in their homes.
One would assume they're in their homes. Yes, that's a good assumption. Especially the ones with the Litlins. But can't assume. Of course, Alec Boehm's a single guy. Who knows what he's doing tonight. But Justin Klugh, baseball perspective.
Famously not single. Famously not single.
He's not
married.
Famously
not
married.
married.
He's not married, is what I'm saying.
He didn't get to come out at the beginning of the game.
That's right. That's right. He's out doing single guy things. Now, it might be with his lady, but he's out doing single guy things, I would imagine. He's a top golf
grocery shopping for himself.
He's doing, is what I imagine. No, he's not grocery shopping.
I don't know if this is the podcast that should be determining what cool single professional athletes are out doing on the town.
You don't think he's at Top Golf tonight? See, that's what I don't. They all do that, or am I just channeling Allen Iverson?
Certainly could be a Top Golf. Sure, absolutely. They could all be at some fundraising event for one of them at Top Golf. Why not? Yeah, sure. That's totally reasonable.
But they could just be there for
fun.
I hope
and they're all there
drinking,
messing up their swings, just having a great time.
That's right. That's right. That's what I want to see. All right. Phillies, Diamondbacks, guys. The Phillies won a series against a good opponent. Revenge for the 2023 NLCS. I think we all feel better now, having taken 2 out of 3 at Citizens Bank Park. It's like it never happened now. Wipe the slate clean. Phillies 19-15 on the season as they start a six-game road trip in Tampa and Cleveland. They're 2.5 behind the Mets in the NL East. The Braves, they had been hot, but they struggled during the course of the weekend. They're now 15-18. They're 6 games back of the Mets, 3.5 behind the Phils. One of the things I noted was that this is the 5th time this season already that the Phillies have won the first 2 games of a 3-game series. They've only swept 1 of those 5 series. The other 4 series, they've lost the series finale with a chance to sweep. It happened in the opening series of the season against the Nationals. They lost the Sunday game 5-1 against the Marlins in their I think it was their second home series of the season. They won the first 2, then lost the Sunday game 7-5 in 10 innings. This week they won the first 2 against the Nationals and then lost the Sunday game 5-1, and then they won the first 2 against the Diamondbacks. They lost the Thursday finale 4-2 this week against the Nationals, and then won the first 2 against the Diamondbacks, and then lost the Sunday game 11-9 in 10 innings. A little bit of a heartbreaker on Sunday. I don't know, Justin, are you satisfied with the series victory, or was it more disappointment that they came all the way back from down 7-1 in the 4th, tied it at 8 in the 9th, had a chance to pull off a miracle win, and at the end just let the Diamondbacks wriggle out of Philadelphia off the hook?
Yeah, I mean, obviously happy with the series win. That's the predominating feeling. That comeback was weird because they really seemed like they were set up to win that game. They came back multiple times. I think I'm just chalking it up to they didn't get the hero they needed right at the end because they'd already used all of their heroes and they had just kind of run out, with like Weston Wilson hitting the home run and Kyle Schwarber hitting a home run, a couple of pitching performances that you got to give credit to. Like they kind of just ran out of heroics.
Well,
and
Bryce Harper was set up to play hero a couple of times. If I'll just drop that in.
Yeah, but he also hit a home run.
That's true.
I mean,
He did.
that
He
was
did do
like
something.
he used up his hero moment hitting that home run.
I guess I get what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
So I feel like they just kind of they didn't have the ammunition, which is a bummer. And you instinctively want to apply a bunch of narrative tropes to it, like if they were okay, so they're playing well, but if they were a great team, they would have found a way to win that game. I don't know. I guess you could just use it more as an indicator of like the state of this team right now is that they have an offense that can work and does work and can win them games even when their starter runs into trouble. But the bullpen is kind of, not a solid wall you can really lean on. And especially in an extra inning situation where everybody's getting a fun little bonus runner. It just creates, almost an inevitability. If they were playing at on the road, I would have assumed that's a lost game long before, they actually lost it. So, I ultimately bummed that was just like, it's like one of those sports movies where it's like, yeah, everything's great. And then they just don't win the last game. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, I guess this is one that's like trying to teach us about disappointment and not, the value of friendship or whatever. But, I'll tell you this. I'm not a big cross sports metaphor guy, but if you, in bowling, if you do a 9 spare in every frame, you still finish with a 190. And that's really, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good day on the lanes. So if you just want to keep winning 2 of 3, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, Liz, I mean, I'm fine with that too. It's certainly better than the alternative, losing 2 out of 3 or getting swept. And this is a Diamondbacks team that came in with the same record as the Phillies. They have a great offense. The first 2 games of the series, the Phillies pitching really held them down well. The offense, Arizona offense really didn't do much of anything in the first couple of games. And then obviously they woke up against Ranger Suarez, who was making his first start of the season, coming off the injured list. But it's interesting. Like, this team really has had trouble finishing off sweeps. It's a big difference between this year and last year. I went back and went through the numbers, Liz. They 11 times in the first 3 months of the season last year won the first 2 games of a series. 7 of those times they finished off the sweep. It was 4 other times that they were not able to. So one of the big differences last year was that they were able to finish off those 3-game sweeps, and they haven't been able to do that this year. But again, of all the problems to have, it's probably not the worst problem in the world. What was your feeling coming off of Sunday?
I appreciate that everyone seemed to be in the same place about the loss. I was looking on Blue Sky and a little bit on Twitter and saw that people were pretty much coming to the same conclusion. They fought back, and they did it multiple times. They almost came back, and it just didn't happen. Just like Justin said, they ran out of heroes because everyone had a good moment. There was no one left to have one. So, yeah. I mean, I agree with that. It was nice to see them fight. It was a huge surprise. My husband and I were about to turn the game off.
Yeah.
We were maybe, no kidding, 10 seconds away from turning the game off. I'm like, how much more do you want to watch this? I can watch the highlights and be prepared for the podcast, but you don't have to watch this. I don't want to make you do it. We were about to change it to something else, and all of a sudden...
Well, I think part of it is that they really did, like... Yeah, the Diamondbacks got their 7 runs, but then the Phillies did kind of like keep them in a holding pattern after that point. So it was kind of like in a competition where you don't go first, so you're aware of the score you have to beat. And so you could just watch, because it was early enough that the Phillies were like, if they just start scoring now, they'll have the time to like keep chipping away. And then they did. And then the Wilson home run came up, and that was obviously the pivotal point where it was like, all right, now this is a ball game. And they had plenty of time left at that point too. Yeah. So like all you got to do is get a couple of these guys to like, Schwarber hits a home run or something. And you're chipping away. So it was just more believable than if like they had started hitting like that in like the 7th inning. That would have been a classic case of like, all right, well, this is obviously not going to get the job done. But I don't know. It just really felt like there was like the first and second act of one of those comeback victories that you'd see on the video yearbook and would be credited for like a turnaround of some kind, a momentum builder. And it just didn't happen. So I'm glad we all kind of landed in the same place, and obviously winning the first 2 games of the series, I think, contributed to people's moods leaving that. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels like maybe not bad, but just kind of unresolved feelings from that game.
Yeah, it felt like the narrative didn't fit because you're right. They came all the way back. They made it. It was 7-6. I really thought the game was lost when Arizona tacked on that insurance run in the ninth inning that made it 8-6. I was like, all right, well, maybe if it was a 1-run game, they could have scratched one across in the bottom of the ninth, but. For whatever reason, that 2-run deficit felt like it was not going to be possible for them to make that up. But they did. They got 2 runs across in the bottom of the ninth. They had an opportunity to get more in. Again, Bryce Harper had a chance to deliver a big hit and a winning blow. And just, again, after the game, he was frustrated after the game, like he had a tough at bat. And then, you bring Jose Alvarado out for a second inning to start the 10th inning. And I want to talk about that a little bit. It's the 3rd time this season Jose Alvarado has gotten a second inning, and this time it bit him when you have that ghost runner, that zombie runner starting on second base to start the 10th. Scott Lauber had this in his story. From 2022 to 24, Alvarado had a total of 5 appearances in which he threw 30 or more pitches. He already has 4 of those outings this season. That's got it. Like, they can't keep doing that with Alvarado, and I think we saw the effects of that on Sunday a little bit. And it's hard when you start with the zombie runner on second base. I absolutely detest that rule. I think there's great alternatives. If you don't want to have games go 18 innings, you don't have to do the zombie runner to start at the 10th inning. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the podcast specifically, but on Sunday. I thought the decision to bring out, I would have rathered Carlos Hernandez, I think, start a clean inning there, just because they have overworked Jose Alvarado so much here so far in the early part of the season. When they brought him out viscerally, Liz, I was just kind of like, yeah, I think that's a mistake. And it kind of ended up being the case.
I mean, it's a sign that I don't think Thompson feels good about anybody else in the bullpen. And after seeing Alvarado go out for 2 innings and do what he did, I don't know how he feels good about sending him out for 2 ever again. At least for a while. Like, he's playing with fire. Yeah. And if he does not trust anybody in the bullpen to go out to start a clean inning or whatever it is, like, then you've got to talk to Dombrowski. You've got to talk to Dombrowski and say, you need to get me someone I can trust, because the rest of these guys are not getting it done. They're not cutting the mustard, and I'm overworking maybe the only truly excellent dude we have in the bullpen. So, yeah, I was unhappy to see that. I understand why he's doing it if he doesn't trust anybody, but there are lots of dudes in that bullpen. Like, give it to someone. I mean, I think they were kind of out of options a little bit.
Yeah.
I think everyone in the bullpen had gone quite a bit over the last week or so. So they were, I think, at the end of their rope. But I don't think that's an excuse to throw your most important reliever out there for a second inning. That's a terrible idea. I'm not like a baseball manager or anything, but I do feel like that's a terrible idea.
Well, and Justin, it had worked a couple times earlier in the season where they brought him out for a second inning. So, I mean, I get the idea Thompson wanted to do there, but I don't know. I felt, and when Suarez doesn't get you through 4 innings, you got to use some of your other guys in order to get you to that 10th inning. That being said, I think I would have just rolled the dice with Carlos. And you know what? If Carlos Hernandez starts the inning, he probably gives up 3 runs anyway. That's just Carlos Hernandez had been pitching better, but that just seemed like maybe that was just the way that game was going to go down.
Thompson has good reason not to trust anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you took the one point I was going to make right out of my mouth there was that, okay, go ahead and bring Carlos Hernandez in and then, watch the Diamondbacks rally from the dugout and be like,
Great
I wonder if there was another option here. It would have been great. That would prevent your best reliever from having to pitch 2 innings is another guy going out there in the off season when you are losing 2 key relievers and only getting 1. I don't know. This feels like the direct result to that. I mean, this has to be a direct correlation. Now we're taxing the one guy who's got the complete trust of everyone else. And, for a team that was really worried about who was pitching how much and when, sure seems like the guy whose job is to come out, throw really hard to get you out of the last inning of the game, maybe shouldn't be doubling his workload as often as they're doing that. So, if there's another guy whose arm can get people out and fill in that spot, it'd be great if that guy existed. But, I mean, the state of the bullpen right now, I don't know who that is. And a game like that is already getting wacky where, the regular template for bullpen usage is starting to go out the window. Your personal plans for individual guys and who you're trying to give an off day, that obviously goes out the window because you're like, I don't know how many extra innings we're going to need these guys for. So I do, there's a certain amount of leeway granted there, but just overall, yeah, I don't know how many times you want to see Jose Alvarado come out of the bullpen, throw triple digits, and then be asked to come out and get 3 more outs. I mean, that's going to bite you at some point inevitably. That can't be like the overall plan.
It's not going to bite just Thompson. It's going to bite Alvarado himself. Like, it is bad for him, for Thompson to be overusing him like that. It's bad for his elbow. It's bad for his forearm. It's bad for his shoulder. I'm naming things in the arm that it could be bad for. And it could impact his future. That's one thing that we don't think about. Like, we joke a lot about Dusty Baker and his completely, absolutely insane bullpen usage back in the day, like 20 years ago. But that destroyed guys' careers. And I really don't want that to happen to Alvarado, who's a good pitcher, who has, I think he has something that other relievers don't. It's why the Phillies have held on to him. I think he's really good at what he does, but they're going to kill him this way.
Yeah, and I wonder at what point they make a move on Ryan Helsley or somebody else, because it sure sounds like they know
for anyone.
Yeah. Well, some depth, but really the only thing that's really going to help this team is somebody that they have confidence in, somebody that they can bring in. And like, if you just go out and you get another guy who throws hard, but has never really done it in the late innings before, you have the same amount of confidence in him that you would have in Jose Ruiz and Joe Ross and even Orion Kerkering. I have very little confidence that that he can be a guy at the moment. Like, Ryan Helsley, you bring him in, you've got yourself a closer. You've got yourself a right-handed complement to Jose Alvarado. The only problem is that dude is going to cost you. He's going to cost you quite a bit. Jim Bowden for The Athletic today did an article, 5 trades he would like to see happen, and one of them was a deal, Phillies getting Ryan Helsley straight up for Mick Abel. Now, Mick Abel has had a very good start to the season. I highly doubt the Cardinals are saying yes to a straight-up offer of Ryan Helsley for Mick Abel at this point. It seems hard to believe they would give up Helsley without getting Justin Crawford or Aiden Miller back as part of a package. So if you're willing to roll that dice now, then okay. But I think we're still a little bit of ways away from dealing one of those guys at this trade deadline. But that being said, I don't know that we'll get into it as we get a little closer, the different options out there, but I don't know. Does it feel like, Justin, we're getting sooner rather than later on a reliever right now? Or is it, are we still a good month and a half away from anything?
Well, not to repeat what I just said, but I don't know how many times you're going to send your one trustworthy reliever out there for 2 innings of work before you realize, this is a direct correlation to not having enough guys we trust. And you're right, this is not a matter of let's just give someone else a chance. This is a matter of let's find someone with a proven track record of getting outs late in games. I guess you kind of have to zoom out when you start talking about Helsley and what the Cardinals would want and what you're willing to give up. You got to zoom out and just try to figure out what the Phillies defined this season as, because we've been defining it as like, okay, it's 1980. This is theoretically the last ride for this core. They've gotten close, but they've not done it. So the difference is in 1980 the Phillies got Pete Rose to be the difference maker. This year the Phillies got 3 guys they were hoping would bounce back, and obviously we all know that Luzardo's been terrific. Kepler has only started heating up, and Romano's been up and down. So that's a different, by the way, outlook than we would have described even, a week or 2 ago.
It's gotten better.
So it's gotten better. So that's not something that can't work, but it feels like for this particular area, the Phillies are going to need to play catch up now at a position where they should have been more aggressive in the winter. They should have been. They just made a choice.
Completely.
Yep.
They decided this is enough. We have more faith in Orion Kerkering and more faith in the guys behind him to everybody moves up a step in the bullpen hierarchy, and we believe that's going to work. And it really hasn't thus far. So yeah, I mean, I don't think you can trade Justin Crawford in a deal for Ryan Helsley, but you kind of put yourself in this corner and you got to decide, do we need to go all out because this is the last ride with this group to win a World Series? Or did we look at this season? Were we more careful and, cheap about this season because we thought, well, this is a transition year. We got to see what we have in these 2 free agents before we offer them an extension. We got to see who's on the good or bad side of like a decline because we have a lot of guys in that area. We want to see what guys like Bryson Stott are going to do this year before we like fully invest in this team again. So we expect to be like a playoff team, but we're not going to treat it like it's a World Series or bust year. And if they took that approach, then they're definitely not going to trade a high prospect for a reliever. But I don't know. I mean, that's the position you put yourself in by not taking care of this in the winter. And now you're probably going to have to, the teams that you're talking to about getting their relievers, they know they have all the leverage. So you're going to have to pay an arm and a leg.
Well, and excuse me. Now I've forgotten what I was going to say because I had to cough. Continue.
Well, let's talk a little Ranger Suarez here. Speaking of guys that people want to put in the bullpen, illogically. Rangers Suarez makes his first start of the season. They put Jose Ruiz on the injured list with neck spasms. So he'll be gone for a little while. It delays a larger roster decision, of course, by a little while. In the first couple innings, when he was pitching out of the windup, he was just mowing guys down. He looked dynamic. He was hitting his spots. He was getting a ton of strikeouts. And then in the third and fourth innings, when he had to start pitching from the stretch, it all fell apart. He wasn't able to locate, and his stuff definitely lacked the same kind of bite that it had out of the windup. 3 2/3 innings, gave up 7 runs on 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, and 7 hits. Thompson, when asked why he left him in the game as long as he did, was saying he wanted to kind of get Suarez stretched out, get him a little bit more work. And Liz, I guess my question is, did Rob Thompson maybe sacrifice a win in order to do that? Did he leave him in too long? Understanding the bullpen, we just had a long conversation about how crappy the bullpen is. Was it right to err on the side of maybe letting Ranger Suarez try to work his way out of the jams that he had gotten himself into in the third and fourth inning?
I think it might have been worth it. I'm curious what Thompson's plan was coming into that game, because it seemed increasingly that he may not have anticipated that Suarez would only go like 3-4 innings. It's his first start back, and I was kind of surprised. It just didn't seem like a sequence of relievers that made a lot of sense to me. And so I think by the end, there was almost, what else could he do but send him out, the only guy he trusts, the only guy that's available that he knows can handle it. It's not even that it's the end of the game. I still think people put too much stock in guys who end games. I think that's largely just myth. But they put too much stock in guys who end games. They could find anybody to do that, right? I don't think you need to end. You don't need to go out and get a closer, right? You guys were talking about that a minute ago, and I'm like, I think the Phillies are gonna want to be more creative than that.
I don't think that's the right move, though.
Yeah,
I don't think it is either. But
they went out and got Carlos Estevez at the trade deadline last year specifically to close for them. So that's why I think
how did
maybe
that work out?
Well, yeah,
when they go out and get guys,
not that badly.
Well, I guess fair enough. Yeah, okay, but I don't know. They're going to have to spend a lot of money if they want to do it, and I don't think the Phillies have decided what they want to be yet. I think that's the big problem. They want the best of both worlds of being World Series or bust, but let's stay back. Let's evaluate. Well, you can't do both. You have to pick one, and they're going to have a bad season if they don't make the decision now, because it leads to stuff like this. Because it's all a domino effect. You start out with, I don't think we really want to make the World Series this year with these guys, but I don't think I want to go all out to spend a lot of money on a closer. And, 2 months later, now we're here, or 6 months later, now we're here. Jose Alvarado is out for 2 innings in a row. And we're like, so what do we do? And there's like no good solution in the offing.
I guess that's, I get that. You're right. And I do think they need to kind of get an identity and see exactly what it is, what kind of course they want to chart. But I think whatever it is, Ranger Suarez is going to be in the rotation to do it, Justin. And, I guess, your thoughts on his outing on Sunday and him staying in the game as long as he did?
Yeah, I mean, he was coming in with a pitch limit, so I was trying to keep expectations nice and soft and pillowy for him to fall back on. And started out, I remember saying to somebody, "Okay, look, he looks great. He's dealing. He was getting a ton of strikeouts early on. He was keeping hitters off balance. He was doing great." And then, just ran into a wall. And I kind of prefaced one of our segments on the Friday episode of Hittin Season with just, a little reminder that, remember, when Ranger's back, he's never actually back. He's 4 weeks or so away from being back, even after he's back.
Yeah.
So don't expect first half NL Cy Young Ranger Suarez to be coming out of that gate tomorrow and just making that start. Like, that's just not going to be what happens. Initially, it was like, all right, well, hey, this is great. But, then he started getting into trouble, didn't locate as well, and things just got a little messier. And, he ultimately left the game with the Diamondbacks pretty much in charge.
And even last year when he came back, he never came back. Like, he was
never.
He never got it back together at the end of last year. Well, the Phillies did win 2 out of 3, so let's talk about some of the good things that we saw this weekend. And I think the offense is hitting much better right now. The slugging came around. We saw more home runs from these guys during the course of this really the 6-game homestand with the Nationals and the Diamondbacks. Let's talk Max Kepler. I know that I've killed Max Kepler on a number of occasions here on the podcast. I did not like the signing. Max Kepler is hitting .277 with a .368 on base and a .494 slugging percentage against right-handed pitchers this season. Now, we've talked about it before. We were lied to when we were told he was an everyday player. He's not an everyday player, and that's okay. But the Phillies are going to face 6 right-handed starters this week on the road. So Max Kepler is going to be in the starting lineup pretty much every game in Tampa and Cleveland. He has 5 home runs and a 123 OPS plus right now, an 806 OPS total. And going back to the start of the Mets series, that's 12 games and 43 plate appearances. He's hitting .342 with a .395 on base and a .711 slugging percentage. That's an 1106 OPS with 4 home runs in his last 12 games. Justin, I wrote a tweet back in the day right after the Braves signed Jerks and Profar that said I would have much rather had the Jerks and Profar contract as opposed to the Max Kepler contract. I have to eat that now. Profar getting busted for a PED suspension doesn't help my case there at all. But listen, objectively, Kepler has looked good against right-handers. He's been one of the more productive hitters, especially over these last couple of weeks. And I will, at the moment, eat crow. Kepler's been good. He's been what they were hoping he would be.
Look, you don't have to eat crow when it's still like the beginning of. There's no official.
It's barely not April.
Right.
We've gone back and forth on this like 3 times already, and it's really nothing set in stone yet. But I just wanted to review. Several months ago, John made an offhand comment that was down on the Max Kepler signing. And I, someone who didn't even really believe it was that great of a signing either, took the other side of that argument on a combination of boredom and little brother energy that I cannot suppress, even as I approach middle age. So that's led to this ongoing debate, which is now, I assume everyone thinks John absolutely hates Max Kepler, and I think that he is wonderful and the heart of the Phillies offense. But that's obviously not the case. This guy's been, not really effective, started becoming effective, and he is not the savior of the Phillies offense or the killer of men, as he is labeled in our show sheet. He is, as John said, hitting well against righties, which is great. That's what you want. You want to see him doing that. So that is a success. When I predicted him having a really nice weekend against the Diamondbacks this weekend, it was partially based on he had started to heat up a little bit already, and his numbers against Eduardo Rodriguez are historically fantastic. He hits .353 off that guy with 2 homers and a double and 17 at bats. But that was the guy Rob Tomlinson sat him against.
Yeah,
and he still went off in this series, but he sat him against Rodriguez on Sunday. So whatever. I mean, look at it positively for whatever reason. It was encouraging to see him do well against the pitchers that he didn't have historic success against. The thing is, when you're imagining a guy in Kepler's role hitting well, it's in addition to the base of like Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos also hitting well, and that's not fully the case yet. he's Kepler is very much part of the supporting cast for this team, especially now that we've revealed he's part of a secret platoon and not an everyday player.
Right. The secret platoon.
That being said, Kepler can't control other people's output, and he has looked a lot better. That wasn't a dial I was really expecting to get turned up after that slog he started with, so anybody performing well offensively is more than welcome in this lineup.
Yeah, Liz, every time Kepler does anything, I hear it on social media. I get a little blue sky notification that Justin gets tagged on. Yeah, John, did you see Kepler's bleeding grounder through the left side there? Good. What do you think now? I get a lot of that. So, and I don't take the bait, Liz. I rise above
Engagement. It's very important.
That's right. That's right.
Say more opposite things for no reason.
That's right.
That's marketing. Okay, I can see why I've had some problems that I've had.
None of us have really gotten ahead.
Tell your friends, folks.
Exactly right.
Hittin season.
Exactly right.
We were talking about
Liz,
Kepler.
Kyle Schwarber. We were talking about Kepler. Talk about Kepler.
Okay. I'm sorry. This is all hilarious. What I really want, John, is in 2 weeks when he sucks again, please do another. We need another. He is terrible. He's garbage. Look at his numbers. And then 2 weeks after that, this is what I want. Can we make that happen? I need John to be giving opposite monologues about Max Kepler every other week.
Here's the thing. It's all a mirage right now. Okay? It's not real. It's all just smoke and mirrors. We all know that. It's pixie dust Max Kepler is under. And that's all this is. Right? The reversion to the mean is lurking right around. It's a bear lurking right around the corner, ready to grab him and wrestle him to the ground. And so when that happens,
when we say this is a Phillies podcast, do we mean pro Phillies? I've actually meant to clear this up.
It's hard to say.
I don't think you can clear it up. We don't even know most of the time.
No. Our feelings are conflicted. This team's 4 games over 500, and we've mostly discussed the things that we think are issues so far.
Their defense, so.
Well, yeah, we're going to get to that. We could talk about Jesus Luzardo. Great start from him this weekend. He's just been rolling along. I don't have anything creative to say about Jesus Luzardo other than he's, National League Cy Young contender right now, best pitcher on the team right now. So yeah, just keep riding that guy, man. He's
being good.
He's looking, and we got to say, hey, listen, Aaron Nola, 2, finally looking sharp. This is the second really sharp start in a row. The issues that he had in April look like they have kind of moved past. The velocity's back where it needs to be. That was a good Diamondbacks lineup that he really shut down on. He pitched Friday night, right? Was it Friday night or Saturday night? I can't remember. Either way, one of the 2 wins where they didn't do anything. Aaron Nola really looked sharp, and that was good to see. And Kyle Schwarber hit another couple home runs in this game. Like you mentioned, he got the Phillies to within a run in the 9th inning. Leads the National League in home runs with 11 right now. He's on pace for 52 home runs this season, and it's not even June yet. Children, it's not even June yet. It'd be the first time he's ever hit more than 50 in a season. I looked up some numbers. Since signing with the Phillies, he is second in baseball in home runs since 2022. Aaron Judge is the only one who's hit more home runs.
Wow.
Over that time, his .558 slugging percentage is 15th in base. Oh no, this season. His .558 slugging percentage is 15th in baseball. And his .956 OPS is 8th in baseball. There's only 18 players with an OPS over 900 right now. Guys like Schwarber, and this is why the Phillies need to sign him to a contract extension, these guys are just becoming increasingly rare in a game right now, this era of baseball, where offenses are really struggling. It is harder to find a power hitting player like Kyle Schwarber than it is to get to find a quality starting pitcher. Just look at the Phillies. Look how they've been able to acquire this starting pitching, develop this starting pitching that they have. And I know that's not the same for every team out there. Maybe the Phillies are a little bit of a unicorn in this way, but they've had a heck of a time developing young star hitters. They just have not been able to do it. But here you have Kyle Schwarber, who again is just 32. He's not like 35, 36, who is the preeminent slugger of the National League. He is the number 1 slugger in the National League right now. And that's really what he is. I don't see, Justin, how you can let that go. I think he might get a contract for more than what he signed for the Phillies back in 2022.
I don't know. You told me he was going to sign before the end of spring training, and we're still having this conversation. So I don't know, man. It would be great if
It's all
the
a
Phillies
mirage. It's all just smoke and mirrors. No.
How much of this season is smoke and mirrors? What are we actually seeing that's
Almost
real?
all of it.
Yeah.
We won't know for a while.
Look, it would be great if the Phillies mixed in some common sense roster moves between all the fun little reclamation projects. But I mean, why extend Kyle Schwarber when you can just sign Gary Sanchez in the offseason? Honestly, like
they're almost the same.
Why? Yeah. It's just going to cost money, and we don't have any of that. So, yeah, sounds like it's Sanchez time to me.
The Sanchez. Get him in here. Yeah, Liz.
Sanchez, stop it. Stop it. The Eagles have won a Super Bowl since the Sanchez. Come on.
The Sanchez, but being applied to Gary Sanchez
That's right.
is way funnier, actually.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I forget what the actual question was, but they should extend Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah,
extend Kyle Schwarber.
Extend.
Yeah, I've said it in the winter, the spring. Right. It's still true.
I'm gonna say it
extend
now. Say it tomorrow.
Right. All right, and one other thing. Let's talk a little bit about the defense. The Phillies' defense really has been a problem, and I know that defensive metrics, some of the nerd numbers that are out there, you don't want to take any of them at face value necessarily. If you're just looking at one number, if you're just looking at like defensive runs saved and that's all you're looking at, you're going to get a lot of noise. You're not going to get a lot of accuracy. But if you look at all of the numbers and they're all telling you that your defense is bottom 5 in the league, guess what? Your defense is bottom 5 in the league. Phillies are 29th in defensive runs saved as a team. I was looking at Baseball Reference's defensive efficiency metric, which is a percentage of all of the balls in play that are converted into outs. This will probably match the eye test, kids. The Phillies are 28th in baseball. Only the Orioles and the Rockies have converted a fewer percentage of balls in play into outs.
What is wrong
terrible
with the
list
Orioles?
to be on.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah,
they're real bad.
According to Baseball Reference's defensive runs saved above average, they're also third worst at -20. They also have something called RGood at Baseball Reference, which is good plays over misplays runs above average. I don't know how they come up with these numbers, but they are the worst in Major League Baseball at good plays over misplays runs above average. I don't know what that all means, but it matches the eye test. It matches what we're seeing.
Yes.
They're 25th in Fangraph's overall defensive metrics. StatCast has them 25th overall. They're 20th in outs above average. We've seen Trea Turner, Johan Rojas, Alec Boehm, Bryce Harper misplayed a ball. He's normally a very good defensive player. So not going to kill him. But I mean, Liz, we've seen this team with their gloves right now. It's costing them games. And the worry is that in a game late, close game, balls hit to Trea Turner. He's got to make a tough play. Can he get the ball to first base without sailing over Harper's head? Can Boehm make a tough play at third base? Can whoever is the center fielder du jour, can they come up with a fly ball instead of letting it drop in front of them? You know, is this a worry, Liz, or is this just kind of an early season thing that'll get itself worked out as the season goes along?
After Trea Turner made his, third or fourth error of the entire series, I was screaming at the screen, I don't care how much they're being paid. They all better get out there for fielding drills because it's unacceptable. The only thing you can, guys screw up. They've got bad games, but there's been more consistency with how bad they've been and their misplays, at least from the eye test, which is all I'm really going on, then the fact that those numbers that you cited actually meet the eye test it says a lot. I really don't care how much these guys are being paid. Everyone's got to get out there for fielding drills. It's not about how many years you've played or how much you're being paid or what position. I don't care. You get out there for fielding drills. They have them every day. I don't care who's annoyed by it. I don't. Because when you're doing that badly at your job for fielding, it goes beyond, you're just having a bad day. You looked in the wrong place. This is kind of a consistent problem we've seen, especially with Trea Turner, which bothers me to no end. This is one of the reasons he's here, is to be a good defensive player wherever it is he is. And for me, the batting average that's up is very good, but it means a little bit less if he's continuing to hark up the ball at, every fourth opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, we talk about Trea Turner specifically, and I think, the conversation is growing in terms of how long can they sustain this, right? How long can Trea Turner continue at shortstop? It seems really hard to me how you could make an in-season positional change with Trea Turner at shortstop. And I agree with Liz. I think fielding drills, getting out there and doing infielding, I think that's something Turner has been doing and is willing to do, because he knows that this is a problem. We read all these articles in the spring about all the improvements that Turner was going to make and everything that he's doing. And players do not improve themselves defensively as they age, especially at a position like shortstop. It's just not something that happens. So, your thoughts on the defense overall, but again, if you want to specifically comment on Turner and his ability to stay at shortstop this year, I mean, is there a path to moving him off that spot?
According to How to Play Baseball, which was published in 1973, the major reasons for defensive failures are fourfold. That players hurry their throws, that players throw off balance, that players are out of position, or that players actually do not know what to do. I think 3 of those have been exemplified by Trea Turner at different points this year. The issue is that he knows where the position he needs to be is. He's out of position because he just hasn't gotten there. But I actually think that happens less. He's able to get to the ball.
Yeah.
It's his throws that are the issue. And when he throws off balance or when he hurries his throws, suddenly there's an issue. I don't think Trea Turner ever doesn't know what to do. He just isn't always capable of doing it. Now, if you want to move into center field, that's where you have people who seem like they don't actually know what to do.
Very true.
Many books or people, if you still talk to any of them, will tell you that the strongest part of a defense should be up the middle.
Yeah,
the catcher, double play combo, and your center fielder. You want them all. You want a catcher with a strong arm and sharp instincts. You want with that strategic mind, that field general mentality. You want the double play combo that's swift and reactive, and you want the fast center fielder who can track the ball off the bat. So let's start with Real Muto. He's thrown out 7 of 27 base stealers. That's pretty much on pace for his caught stealing percentages the last few years. He has not been elite in this category, actually, since 2021. He's not bad, but he's not, the elite JT Real Muto gunner that we've seen in the past.
A couple throws went into center field on Sunday, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, right?
You are remembering correctly, yes. Catcher framing, he's around where he normally is. About 43% of the pitches he's framed get called for strikes. It's middle of the pack. He's only got 1 pass ball so far this year, and not to bring up age, so I won't, but I will just point out that he is one of only 3 active catchers to have played over 10,000 innings in their career. Ooh. And when you're a catcher, those innings count double, I would say. So there's just, Real Muto is not the main problem, not anyone's biggest problem.
Correct.
Trea Turner. Here's a headline from the New York Times a month ago. Trea Turner hears the talk about his future at shortstop. Can he prove the skeptics wrong? Here's a headline 2 weeks ago from thegoodfight.com. Trea Turner is good at defense again. Here's a headline from Phillies Nation 5 days ago. Trea Turner is still searching for the complete version of himself. Turner can make a highlight reel play by getting to the ball, but throwing it's become an issue, like I said. Also, sometimes getting to it is an issue. And shortstop is traditionally the best athlete on the field. We are in an era we have circled back around. There's a new big 3 at shortstop. Baseball America was just talking about Gunnar Henderson, Ellie De La Cruz, and Bobby Witt Jr., and talking about the strength of that position. We're a new era of that now. And then you turn and look at the Phillies, and it's Trea Turner, and you're like, but he's not a guy who just never got there. He was there at one point, and now you're looking at him and wondering, when do we push that button? When do we have that conversation? Because nobody wants to have it. Yeah. Fortunately, you've got Stott over there who took a step back defensively last year, but he took a step back overall last year. So I'm not even really counting that. He was Gold Glove caliber in 2023, and his DRS is usually pretty solid. So Stott's good. Stott's a good defender. So then you move into center field. We all know that among any of the issues I just listed, this is the one. Rojas has speed and can make a great catch, but he does not seem to know if the ball he's looking at is the one he's supposed to catch, or how a baseball moves, or if he should stick his glove out if the ball's falling 2 feet in front of him. And then you have Marsh, who has missed some time this year, but has honestly shown familiarity with seeing the ball, getting to the ball, and catching it. His concerns are more at the plate, I would say, than on the defensive side. So to wrap up, even compartmentalizing the Phillies defense to these 4 crucial out of 9 positions, you can kind of see where the issue is, that they are not locked up the middle defensively. And yes, it's important because the last thing this team needs when its bullpen is leaving fastballs over the plate is a defense that doesn't know or can't get to them, or doesn't know what to do or can't get to them after somebody clobbers one of these pitches. So yeah, this is an issue, and I think it's going to be something the Phillies have to address before the end of this season.
I don't know. I think Trea Turner, if this continues, I think they're going to have to do something. And I don't know exactly.
And he knows that. They set this season up as, hey man, like you're aware of what's going on. This is essentially a tryout for you to keep your job, and he knows that. So
and I don't think it can run the whole year. Like if it's costing them games, if it's costing them innings, if it's costing them pitchers pitches, burning guys that they have to throw 30 pitches in an inning instead of 15. That's a big deal, especially as you get later on in the season. So you could just flip-flop him and Stott. The more aggressive move is to start trying Trea Turner out in the outfield, which, again, I don't anticipate that being something that we see this year. But, we're also talking about, Bryce Harper.
I love
the idea of it.
Put him out there, see how he does.
Right, and I think in 2026, I think that's what we're looking at. I think we're looking at Trea Turner in left or center field.
Hope so.
And I think Aiden Miller is probably on this team next year at some point. Maybe not to start the season, but we'll see how the season goes this year for him down in the minors. But it'll come to a point this year where he either gets better or he's not going to play there. And I think could be a relief for him too. I think he takes some of the offensive issues out into the field with him, and I think he takes some of his defensive issues to the plate with him sometimes. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's certainly human nature. We know players have had that issue in the past where you're struggling in one part of the game, you bring it out into the other part of your game, and now you're messing up both parts of your game. So he's doing a better job at getting on base. He's been a good top of the lineup guy. He's starting to slug the ball a little bit more offensively. So it's coming around there a little bit. He's just got to make the routine plays. I don't care if he makes a dynamic play, man. Just gobble the ball up and throw it to first, and we were really lucky with Jimmy Rollins here all those years. He's a hoover over there at shortstop, and you knew that ball when he caught it, that ball was going to first base at Ryan Howard's chest every single time. So all right, let's finish off the podcast here with a little nonsense, guys. I went on Twitter today because the game on Sunday infuriated me with the extra inning rule. Like the Phillies came all the way back, tied the game going into the 10th inning, and then you just put, for the Diamondbacks, a runner on second base to start the 10th inning, which I've always hated this rule. I especially hated it on Sunday. Like it automatically muted the momentum the Phillies had going into the 10th inning. It's like an automatic leadoff double, essentially, is what you've got there. And so it's just, I've hated it. All extra inning results right now feel fluky because it's not real baseball. Like you're not starting from zero in extra innings. So it's a gimmick, right? This whole extra innings gambit is a gimmick. And even if you win in extra innings, it still feels kind of fluky. How many times last year Phillies won a couple of extra inning games where you're just like, they don't win that game if they don't get the guy on second base to start the inning. Like there's no way they win that game. So I hate it. I think it's terrible. So I want to float an idea that somebody on X sent my way. It's a progressive extra inning rule. So that this is from Daniel Mormack at DanPSU09 came up with this one. Maybe in the 10th inning, it's no runner. So standard inning to start the 10th inning, nobody on base. In the 11th inning, you start with a guy on first. The offense gets a little boost, right? But not so much that if a pitcher went out and got 2 outs, he could still get out of the inning. Whereas if you start with a runner on second base, even if you get an out, if it's a ground ball to the right side and a fly ball to the outfield, you still can lose that game, which I think just stinks as a way to start an inning, unless you give up the double. And then, okay, that's fine. So you start the 11th with the zombie runner on first base. The 12th inning is when you start with the zombie runner on second base. And then it gets progressively more offensive advantageous. In the 13th inning, you start with a guy on third. In the 14th inning, the offense starts with guys on first and third. In the 15th inning, it's second and third with nobody out. And then the 16th, it's the bases loaded. You're never going to get to the 14th or 15th or 16th innings or anything like that. But at least you're giving teams in the 10th and the 11th inning. At least it's a little bit more like the game you've been playing up to that point. Whereas if you win a game in the 10th or the 11th inning under those rules, it doesn't feel faux to me. It doesn't feel like a fake win or a fake loss like Sundays did. Justin, what do you think?
I love it. I love every version of this. The popular one before was the opposing manager gets to pick a defender to take off the field every inning, so that there's fewer and fewer defenders every time. If you want to add outs so that there's 4 outs, then 5, then 6 every additional extra inning to allow the offense more time to score. Yeah, I'm all for all this, and I think baseball should just be more fluid about it and just be like, this year we're doing this thing. It's literally a 1-year thing, and that's just what we're doing this year. People would hate it, but, people, and they can go back and say, like, well, this team would have been this way if they didn't have that rule in place. Sure, but, clearly people love talking about baseball, or there wouldn't be a cajillion baseball podcasts. So this idea is I feel, another version of that, but more thought out and a little more strategic. And like you said, you kind of get, it's a little more indicative of what you used to see. I still am a big fan of, let's give them 3 innings in extras to win the old fashioned way, and then start using the ghost runner in the 13th. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense too, rather than just going to the 9th.
I'm even fine with the ghost runner starting in the 12th. Like, I'm even fine with just 2 innings of regular rules.
That's what I think is a better compromise for what Manfred is looking for and wants from the game, and what the rest of us, including the players, want. Like, literally everyone else on the planet.
Right. And I think I don't, is there anybody who, I mean, I guess I did encounter some people who said that they liked the current
Idiots.
rule. I'm sure the writers like it because they're not staying until midnight, but it's not real baseball. And I do kind of miss the 17 inning marathons, the 18th inning marathons as a fan.
It didn't happen that often,
where, it, right. And, the one thing it does do is it makes you have a deep pitching staff, not just at the majors, but in your AAA team as well. Like, if you burn through all your guys and you're forced to go 4 innings with a guy, or you have to start your starter the next day and have him pitch an inning or 2, can you call a guy up from AAA and get him there in order to kind of help get you through the rest of the series or the rest of the week or whatever it is? I mean, and that happens so rarely, position players pitching, in 16th, 17th, 18th innings of games. I do miss that aspect of baseball. Those legendary games you talk about, but we've talked about all that before. My point is, there are good solutions to not cheapening an extra inning game the way it is now. It's cheapened right now. I mean, am I overstating it, Liz? Like how dumb and how ridiculous? Like even a win this way, doesn't it feel like, if we're honest with ourselves, doesn't it feel dumb to win this way, like in extra innings, by automatically getting a guy on second base? By the way, the road team historically has a .510 winning percentage in extra inning games.
Wow.
Do you know why that is? There's a psychological component to this, and it relates to football.
I think I know what you're going to say.
In football, there's a thought that, like, if you have like a 2-point lead late, and it's like a 4th and close situation, and you kick a field goal to go up by 5, you're forcing the other team to have to go down and score a touchdown. You give them no other choice but to score a touchdown to try to beat you. If you're up by 3, so like, let's say you're up by 3. Okay, that's a better example. You're up by 3. Instead of going for it on 4th down, you kick a field goal, you make it a 6-point game or something like that. The offense has to go score a touchdown in order to beat you. If you go for it and miss it, well, now the offense has to decide, well, do we play for the tie, or do we, get into field goal range, or do we go for the win? Most of the time, that offense is going to play it on the conservative side and play for overtime, giving you as the other team, as the team that went for it, the opportunity to play for overtime. Like, you're not you're putting all the onus on that team to go ahead and score the touchdown, and it makes them more aggressive, right? It's the same thing with extra innings. Like, if you're the road team, you can't play for 1 run. You can't bunt the guy to third and then sacrifice Flyman because the home team can do the same thing. So the road team is more likely to put up either a 0 or a crooked number in that case, which then puts the onus on the home team. The home team can't play for 1 run if the visiting team has put up a crooked number. Now, if they put up a 0, sure, the home team has the advantage. They can play small ball, but teams can't play small ball anymore. They don't know how to do it. Nobody does sacrifice them and hit it to the outfield anymore.
This rule is the equivalent of using Thor's hammer to hammer in a nail in your wall. It is the most inelegant solution they could have found for this. They just said, all right, so we want to make games shorter in the long, not even games shorter. We want to prevent extra innings. So why don't we just put a guy out there? We just put a guy on base. That'll fix it. They'll have to, if they hit a ball to the outfield, they'll score and the other team will have to score and then the game will be over. It's the least intuitive, least creative, least baseball-like, way to fix this non-problem. To start off with, it's a non-problem completely. It's not like teams were having, 18-inning games once a month. It happened maybe 2 to 3 times a season, and it didn't kill anybody. I mean, that's something that bothers me is Major League Baseball tried a whole lot of things before just going ahead and saying, we're putting a time limit on you in the box. We're putting a time limit on you on the mound. That's the way it is now. That's it. It took them so long to get to that point that in the lead up, they instituted a whole bunch of nonsense rules that no longer make sense. Limiting mound visits. You know why they did that? Because during one playoff series, I think it might have been the Astros, did an unconscionable number of mound visits during one game. And that's something that now Manfred remembered, I guess. And they said, we need to make sure we limit these mound visits because of this one game. And so they limited mound visits. Now that didn't have like a major impact, but it's just an example of what they've tried to do. They've instituted other rules to try to make the game short, and none of them worked until they instituted the time limit. And so I would just love for them to stop beating around the bush with some of this and do what they are going to do anyway. It took them like 8 years to get here. And so it's just indicative of how they solve problems, because either these are not solved in any good way or they're not even problems to begin with. And now what you've done is make it a huge issue for everyone.
I think every millennial Phillies fan watched the Wilson Valdez game, and Major League Baseball has worked very hard to make sure that can never happen again.
Never.
And we've just taken that very, very, very personally.
Yes.
Yeah, I miss that. And frankly, I have so many issues with the scheduling this year. I miss being able to turn up the Phillies game's over. Great. Can't wait to tune into some weird 10 p.m. Mariners game where they blow a 5-run lead in the 9th to the Astros or something. That's just not an option anymore. There are no 10 o'clock games even on the West Coast anymore. Like the amount of late baseball to watch after the prime time has ended, if you just missed that game, you just want to watch some baseball, it's pretty limited, honestly. Yeah. They have this stuff wrapped up real early now, and I don't get it. I don't get like why making it more efficient in these capacities makes it better. I don't know. Maybe other younger generations feel that is more appealing, and that's what they're trying to market stuff to. Maybe this is how the old people felt when we were young. Impossible.
Football games last 4 hours.
Is, I like watching baseball when it should be over with. I like watching baseball at weird times when it shouldn't be getting played. All right? Give me that. I'm not asking a lot here. Why do you have to change all that? Yep. Old. Definitely on the old side now.
Relax.
I heard it.
Yeah, you've gotten there. You've made it to middle age. Welcome.
Might I add that nobody wants to work anymore?
No, that's right.
Kids these days,
you
uphill
right
both
about
ways in the snow.
Oh man.
No phone.
Why don't you start a podcast like my grandfather did?
That's right.
When he was broke and penniless and had terrible opinions.
There's so much truth oozing out of this podcast tonight. It's hard to believe. Hard to contain it all. All right, looking ahead, the Phillies start off a 3-game series with the Rays in Tampa. You'll have Zach Wheeler against Drew Rasmussen. Good matchup there. Christopher Sanchez on Wednesday night against Shane Baz. Another good pitching matchup. There's going to be 3 good pitching matchups. And then Jesus Luzardo against Ryan Pepiot. I don't remember exactly how to say his name, but he's off to a pretty good start this year. But should be 3 good games in Tampa. The Phillies have really owned the Rays over the last couple of years. We'll see if that continues down in Tampa. Let's finish up with some final thoughts, everybody. Justin, final thoughts?
Yes, my final thoughts are that I'm Justin Klugh. I write for Baseball Prospectus. I didn't get an intro in this episode for some reason. In case anyone's confused, I am supposed to be here.
Did you just start?
Just in case.
But did you start talking before I could properly introduce you? Because that's
yeah.
What you do.
The episode was really thrown off by such a uncommon.
It felt uneven from the get-go.
Me starting to talk.
I couldn't articulate why, but now I know.
It's your fault.
Well, that being said, I will also throw this in there, and that is that last year Bryce Harper started pretty slow to the point that everyone started looking at each other and say, okay, when is he going to figure it out? And I came on this show and I said he's going to scream at himself in the mirror and come out and hit 3 home runs. And then that night he hit 3 home runs. That was absurd.
It was crazy.
I believe this year he will figure it out again. At this point, he can figure it out however he wants. Harper being a .230 hitter for an entire season is an issue the Phillies don't want to have to deal with, address, or think about. Nobody's really expecting that to happen anyway. The question we're going to be asking at some point in the future is, how low can Bryce Harper's numbers be and the Phillies still be a playoff team? But we're not there yet. He's just off to a slow start. He's going to be here forever, so don't be in a hurry to announce his decline is in full swing. I'm pretty sure last year, when he had that 3-homer game, he wasn't actually totally fixed. That wasn't the beginning of Bryce Harper. He actually continued slumping after that game. It was 13 games later that he hit his next home run.
Right.
And he was hitting under 200 when he hit that home run. Then he hit 313 with a 990 OPS in May, and then he got even hotter in June. So there are no complete answers for the present in the past, but there is precedent for Harper having a lousy April. And so in that regard, I would just say, again, give him time.
I agree with that. I'll just throw out this because I had this on the show notes and I did a lot of work for it. And I wrote about this for the Good Fight. He had that incredible May and June last year. And then it did go away for much of the second half of the season.
And then it came back. He had a terrible July, I believe. He hit maybe under 200 in July, but then he came back and had a hot August too.
I'll say these numbers, and then I'm going to have Liz do her final thoughts. Since July 1st last year till today, he has 16 home runs. Over that span, that's tied for 57th most in baseball. His 46 RBIs since last July 1st are tied for 87th most in baseball. That would average out, the 16 home runs and 57 RBIs since July 1st would average out to a 25 home run, 72 RBI season over 162 games. So for a guy who is our Aaron Judge, this is our superstar. We haven't been able to grow one of our own of these guys. Like Harper is, and he has been that guy. So this is not to rail on Harper or to try to run him out of town or even say that it's never coming back. I agree with you. I think Harper will get hot this year. My question, for how long? We were told in the Giants-Marlins series when he got really hot, I figured it out. He told Kevin Long it'd be 10 days, and then I'd start hitting the ball. I'm starting to see the ball well, and now he's off and running. And then since then, he's 8 for 47 with a 170 batting average over that time. So my reliance, I think the Phillies haven't been able to rely on Bryce Harper as that engine just yet. I agree with you. I think it'll come, but I don't know for how long anymore with Bryce, and that's just a little concerning to me. Not trying to sound alarms or anything, but it's a little concerning.
I think that's fair, and I think that a lot of the stats you put out there, even ones that veer more towards okay, that's fine. Remember, expectations should be better than fine for Bryce Harper.
Right.
He is meant to be more than fine. The Phillies don't even, I would say, offensively function at their fundamental level if Bryce Harper is just fine.
Correct.
I mean, we've seen them thrive without him in the lineup because he was hurt, but generally they are built to be a Bryce Harper-centric lineup.
Right.
But to your point, you can easily say from July 1st to next year, that the numbers have been down. But, last year you got 3 out of 6 months where his OPS was over 900. And I would even say that that's not as much as you want to see from Bryce Harper.
It's not.
That's you want to see more. But I stand by my statement that we have not seen the hottest Bryce Harper is going to get for this year, and he's one of the uncommon guys in that lineup that instead of just like a week or two, his hot streaks last like 2 months. So he's got that going for him as well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It starts this week. Liz, final thoughts from you?
Since I was reminded of that May 25th, 2011 game, we talked about it just a little bit, the 18-inning game or 19-inning game, which Wilson Valdez finished. I just want to say one name that no one would remember if it were not for this game, and that name is Danny Baez. He ended his 2011, his final season in the majors and with the Phillies with an ERA over 6. But his greatest moment of his Phillies career, and maybe his career as a reliever, because he was converted from a starter to a reliever after the 2002 season, came in that game where he put up 5 scoreless innings. He had not managed to put up a scoreless inning for so long before that moment, but that is what got the Phillies through that game. People will remember Wilson Valdez, but if it were not for Danny Baez, I remember thinking the game is over. The game is finished. This is fun, but they're going to lose. And then he came out and threw better than he had thrown in his entire Phillies career. They would have lost that game if it weren't for him. And so I just want to take a moment to appreciate Danny Baez from, what year is it now? Almost 15 years ago. 14 years ago. He is currently 47 years old with no information on his current whereabouts. But wherever you are, Danny, thank you very much.
Didn't David Herndon make an incredible? Was that the game he was pitching and a bouncer came back and he had to catch it barehanded and fire it to first, and that was a big game saving play too. I don't know. I might be confusing my late inning Phillies pitching performances.
Because there was also another.
Regardless, yeah. Give Baez some credit. That was an incredible relief performance. I remember that vividly.
Danny Baez with the name, it sounds like attorneys general.
Oh, gosh.
Just the pluralization of the first name is what I really like about Danny Baez. And it reminds me of that 20-inning game in '93 that Kevin Stocker made his major league debut, and Mike Williams did the same thing, like a 5 shutout innings or something in that game too. So. 93. Not everything relates to 93 for me. That's kind of where my brain usually
is. The kind of experiences you're robbing of people, being at the ballpark at 3 a.m., watching the Phillies walk it off.
Yep. You didn't get this with the zombie runner on second, friends. It's we can't talk about this kind of. No child knows a world in which Danny Baez gives you 5 shutout innings and you remember it forever. It's a tragedy.
I'm pretty sure there was that guy was secretly living in a Vet Stadium apartment at that point and watched that game. So
that's right.
Children, you too could be a drifter living in the stadium to no one's knowledge. And baseball is trying to take that away from you, which I think is wrong.
Who's going to care for the feral
In a couple
cats
of months,
community?
Major League Baseball might not have a choice than to let the masses in as we all hunger and thirst.
We'll be playing for the Phillies. And I'll cross the picket line. I have no qualms about that. Let me feel some ground. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. Yeah, I know. Boo me. That's fine. That'll do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. I want to remind everybody, you can always send us an email here at Hittin' Season. If you record something on your phone, you can email us a voice memo. We'll play it on the show, and you can become a part of the podcast. Or you can just send us in questions or comments, statements of fact, and we'll read those on the air too, if you like. Don't forget to tell your friends and family members about this future World Series winning Phillies team. If they don't know about it already, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcasts, that's where we are. And you can also check out this podcast. Every Roundtable podcast is on our Hittin' Season YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and in the search bar type Hittin' Season and you will find us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin' Season.